Good afternoon, everybody. It's a little different meeting in the afternoon than in the morning. We appreciate everyone being here. This is the Governing Board meeting of September 10, 2024. And we have a time certain at 5:05 today for our first public hearing on the FY 24-25 millage and budget meeting. And our meetings are available in person and by the district's YouTube link. Information regarding the link is located on our website, www.myswanneeriver.com. And at this time, we will call our meeting to order, and everyone rise, please, for invocation and a pledge.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for your many blessings, your grace and your mercy. Father, I thank you for this staff, this dedication to protecting the natural resources you've blessed us with. As always, we ask for your wisdom and guidance in this matter. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, I am very excited and very happy that we have two board members that have been reappointed to the board, and we also have a new board member with us today. And at this time, I believe that we will call up individually for the oath of office. Tom, are you going to take care of that for us?
Yes, ma'am. We can do it individually, we can do all three at once, however you guys would like. Yeah, come on.
Three at once.
Sounds good.
Faster.
Don't mess up on it.
Go slow, Tom. I know. That way they can't tell. Folks. All right, if you would raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office under
to hold office under
the Constitution of the state,
the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
perform the duties
perform the duties
of Swanee River Water Management District
of Swanee River Water Management District
Governing Board member,
Governing Board member,
of which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now
So help me God.
helping out.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did good.
Thank you, I
was
appreciate
listening
that.
to you.
I passed.
Yes, you did.
All right, Ms.
Yes.
Robin, at this time, would you do roll call, please? All right, which one do you want me to announce?
You did.
Yes, I did the mic. No problem. Keep me
Chair-
straight.
Chair Johns,
Here,
Mr. Keith,
Here.
Mr. Schwab,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Sessions,
Here.
Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Mr. Lloyd,
Here.
Mr. Wheeler.
Here.
thank you, Robin. Are there any amendments to our agenda? Is there a motion to accept the agenda as written?
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. All right. We will now open the podium for public comment. If anyone would like to come forward for public comment, now would be a good time. All right, there being none, we'll close public comment and move right on into our collective consent agenda. Everyone had time to study up. Do you have a motion on the agenda?
I'll make that motion that is passed as written.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. All right. We will go right on into our hydrologic conditions report, and I think you're going to tell me it's wet.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'd like to present the hydrologic conditions report, excuse me, for August 2024. I'd like to thank David King for sending me over this photo of a really flooded Ivy Memorial Park down in Branford. He took this on August 16th. The river gauge down there at Branford was 25.7 feet, which means that it was in minor flood stage at this point. You can really see at this point there's the boat launch right there is just completely inundated, and right here is the flood totem that we have out there. Kind of see it's just starting to I guess hit right on the bottom of that flood totem. But I think this is kind of a great picture because it's hard to tell, but right in here is the 1948. That's how high it got over there. Just above that is the bridge elevation. So that just kind of gives you some perspective on where we were, compared to way back when. So this gauge crested the day prior to when David took this picture. It crested at 25.9 feet on the 15th of August. And it was in minor flood stage. So it's since gone down quite a bit, but I think it's a great an indication of what we had to really deal with this past month with our flooding and things like that, just due to Hurricane Debbie coming through and dumping a bunch of water on us, which I'll talk about in a few slides. But my thanks goes to David. I think it's a great way to start our hydro report for August 2024. So rainfall for August 2024, we had a district-wide average of 11.7 inches of rain. That represents 54% more or 54% higher than that 1932 to 2023 average of 7.6 inches. We did actually get an additional surplus. We went from about a tenth of an inch of surplus at the end of July to 4.8 inches of surplus at the end of August. Looking at this map here, the 9 to 12 inch range encompasses that district-wide average, and just average amounts and above, we really kind of in this outlined area here is where all the rain kind of concentrated this month. The lower amounts were more on the extremities of the district. We had 6 to 9 inches of rain, which represents a little bit lower than that average amount in that dark blue. And then the light blue is less than 6 inches. Light blue is really prevalent over in the Jefferson County area, a little bit over into Madison, Taylor as well. But we did have some lower amounts, that 6 to 9 inch range in dark blue over in Madison, upper portions of Hamilton down into Taylor, and then even over in the east, over in Bradford and Alachua counties, even down into Levy, we saw some of those lower amounts as well. We did see higher amounts on the flip side of that. 12 to 15 inches is our first category higher than average. That's in the orange color. And then the 15 to 18 inches in red, we see a lot of those in the center part of our district, kind of following the areas where Hurricane Debbie kind of dumped a bunch of water on us. More than 18 inches, we actually had a category of more than 18 inches, and that's in that pink color there. We see some of those areas here in Levy County. Dixie County's got one. Suwannee has a pretty large area. And then even over kind of the eastern, southeastern part of Madison County, we saw a spot with more than 18 inches of rainfall this past month for August. So the biggest story and the biggest rainmaker for the month was Hurricane Debbie. Of course, Hurricane Debbie made landfall near Steinhatchee at about 7 a.m. on Monday, August 5th. It was a Category 1 hurricane, 80 mile per hour winds. Was I believe what the official has come out with now. But I just wanted to show this. This is kind of the infrared satellite, just to how big this thing was. You can kind of see, it's hard to see, but that's the state of Florida, of course, that's outlined here. And I mean, this thing is just massive. And of course, the eye was kind of over in this area. Just a huge wind maker, huge rain maker for us as well. But I was quite impressed by how big this whole thing was. But I showed this next slide at the last board meeting, but I think to drive it home, it's good to show again. August 4th through 5th, those are our two biggest rain-making days of Hurricane Debbie. Rainfall averaged, I'm talking just right at 8 inches of rainfall for our district. We had some areas of really high rainfall, 8 to 10 inches in orange, and then that 10 to 12 inch range. Once again, I'm pointing this out in the middle of our districts, kind of where this all fell. We see those in orange and red. And then we had some areas more than 12 inches over in Suwannee County, of course, Madison County, and right on the border with Suwannee County, and even over into Columbia County. We saw some areas of more than 12 inches of rain in that 2-day period. Okay, so we'll kind of change gears here a little bit. This is the departure from normal precipitation. So we got a lot of rain at the beginning of the month, and then we kind of started to dry out a little bit. This does not include, I do want to point this out, does not include Hurricane Debbie. This is from August 11th on. So this is the past 30 days. We're actually seeing some deficits and some pretty notable deficits in our district as well. Anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of deficit in that light orange color. We kind of see that on the outskirts of our district, even over into the western and eastern parts of our district. Central part of our district, we're seeing 4 to 6 inches of deficit, and that's from like Taylor County, Dixie County through Lafayette, Suwannee, and then up through Hamilton as well. We did see one big spot here, I believe it encompassed most of central Lafayette, this red spot here. That's 6 to 8 inches of rainfall deficit for the past 30 days. So we did get a little bit of a reprieve on Sunday. We got, at least here in town, we got a little bit of rain, but we could definitely use some more just to keep things from drying out so much. With that said, those stream flow conditions for August to begin the month and end the month. So we had August 1st on the left and then August 31st on the right. Most of the gauges began the month in the normal or above normal, the 25th to 75th or 75th to 90th percentile in flow. We did end the month, a lot of these gauges did, especially in our district, in the above normal or the highs. Now, most of these highs, the greater than 90th percentiles, occurred in the Suwannee Basin. We've got White Springs, Ellaville, down to Brantford and Rock Bluff all saw that greater than 90th percentile in flow for the month. A lot of the notable ones for above normal ending the month were over in the coastal areas: Osceola, Lamont, Econfina, Finn Holloway, Steinhatchee. And we had some that ended in the normal range as well, but those were more or less over in the Santa Fe Basin. Fort White, Worthington Springs, New River, and Graham all were in that 25th to 75th percentile in flow. Even looking up into the Alapahat, Statenville, and then Jennings, they also ended in that normal range as well. So kind of a mixed bag for us a little bit for stream flow as far as that's concerned, but still looking pretty good as far as that is. Now, this is the upper Florida aquifer levels for the end of July. I showed this at the last board meeting, but I wanted to show this again just to compare with what we had for this month. So this is going to look a little different, but we were facing some drying conditions here down in the southern part of our district. We had 10th to 25th percentile areas down in Dixie County, Levy County, Gilchrist County, up into Columbia, and then even over in Jefferson County, we were seeing some of those lower spots. We had one well that actually was below 10th percentile here in Dixie County as well. As far as the other side of the coin goes, we did have some areas of highs. We had 75th to 90th, which is in that light blue color, stretching from a well over in Taylor County over into Suwannee, Madison, and Jefferson counties. And then we had some higher. We had some above 90th percentiles over in Madison County and then stretching over into Jefferson as well. Elsewhere, most of the district was in that normal 25th to 75th percentile range. Now we fast forward 1 month, we see a lot of improvement in our, and a lot of highs too, but we do see a much improvement down in the southern part of our district. We're seeing a lot of those 75th to 90th percentile pretty much everywhere in our district. A lot of those wells are trending up as well too, going up from July to August. We did have some above 90th percentiles, quite a large area of that, stretching from Dixie through Taylor, Madison, Suwannee, Columbia, Hamilton, and Lafayette, even down in southern Columbia as well, all saw that above 90th percentile. Some areas that didn't get quite as much rain still showed normal ranges. We had a few wells over in Jefferson. Gilchrist showed some. Dixie, even over into Alachua, Levy, and Bradford, all were in that normal range to end the month as far as the well levels were concerned. Now, this is from the U.S. Drought Monitor. This was released this past Thursday. I don't look for much change this Thursday from what I've seen so far, but what we're seeing here is on the more western part of our district, over in Jefferson County, even in that area, we're seeing abnormally dry conditions, even down into Taylor County. I believe that's just right into the kind of western portion of Taylor County. If anything, I could see this probably stretching out just a little bit if we don't get any more rain. But right now, that's the area that I kind of showed on that first map where they didn't get that area didn't get much, if any, rain this past month. I did want to point out too, we are also still in our El Nino Southern Oscillation neutral conditions as far as climate is concerned. We are expecting the La Nina to eventually come into play here. That's actually, it's kind of been shifted down a little bit, but it's 66% chance of a La Nina formation from September to November. But that gets a higher percentage from November to January at 74%. So we are going to see a La Nina here pretty much within the next few months, I believe. But what we're dealing with right now, as far as National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration tells us, from September through November, we have an above normal rainfall probability, and most of the eastern coast does as well of the United States. We're kind of leaning above. It's a little bit of a low percentile, I think, in our area, but it's still, nonetheless, they're calling for above normal rainfall probabilities, due in part to the high activity that we're expected to have in the Atlantic for hurricane season. And also above normal temperature probabilities as well. Most of the United States, unless you live over in the West Coast, you're going to see some form or some percentage of a chance of above normal temperatures for September through November as well. So I did want to wish everyone happy climatological peak of Atlantic hurricane season day. So that is today, September 10th. We are right here on the peak of hurricane season. What I wanted to point out on here is from this point on are about 2/3 roughly of the storms that are typically named throughout history. So it's going to start waking up. It is starting to wake up actually now in the Atlantic and even in the Gulf as well. So we are here in the middle. So we've got a lot more hurricane season to go. So we'll have to definitely keep our eyes out on that. And I did want to give a little bit of an update. This is actually just hot off the presses, really, but as of 1:43, Francine has been formed. That was formed yesterday as a tropical storm. That one's expected to become a hurricane, and it's headed on into Louisiana. And from what I can tell, it's going to kind of go up the Mississippi River Valley, kind of. I did want to say also we can go ahead and count these names out. So we're down 6 names so far in the Atlantic tropical cyclones, tropical cyclone names. Our next up would be Gordon whenever that one's formed. We do have 2 spots over here. One is at 70%, the other is at 40%. I'm looking at spaghetti models. They're all over the place right now, so we won't really know anything until that probably gets some sort of defined center form. And then also I showed this last time as well, the Atlantic hurricane season outlook, still at 90% chance of above normal activity. We've got 17 named storms, 17 to 24 named storms as a range, 8 to 13 hurricanes, and then 4 to 7 major hurricanes planned, or not planned, but delineated for this year by National Hurricane Center. All right, finally, our August 2024 summary, we had a rainfall amount of 11.7 inches, which was 54% higher than that 1932 to 2023 August average of 7.6 inches. We had a district-wide surplus that did increase quite a bit from just over 1/10 of an inch at the end of July to 4.8 inches of rainfall surplus. So that was definitely a good thing for us. District-wide upper Florida and aquifer levels got boosted quite a bit. We went from the 57th percentile in July to the 86th percentile at the end of August, due mostly to the rainfall that fell from Hurricane Debbie. And we had a median level increase across all our wells of about 2.8 feet. As I mentioned, El Nino Southern Oscillation neutral conditions are expected to continue for a little bit longer. We do have a 66% chance of La Nina formation from September to November, and then 74% chance from November to January. As the last drought monitor came out, portions of Taylor and Jefferson counties are showing abnormally dry conditions. More than likely, that'll probably continue for at least the next week or so. And finally, we do have 6 named storms so far this season. Alberto, Beryl, Chris, Debbie, Ernesto, and Francine just got named as a tropical storm. That, as I mentioned, is expected to become a hurricane and make landfall probably in the next couple days in Louisiana. I think from what I've seen, it's going to be either a high-end Category 1 or low-end Category 2. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll take any questions that the board may have.
Do you think the Francine is going to be able to dump a little water on the panhandle?
Madam Chair, I have seen there is a huge, I'm trying to think, outer bands associated with this system, and I think some of that will probably hit the panhandle. I don't know about so much here where we are, but I think the panhandle should see a little bit of rainfall from that because they definitely need some as well. Sure. But yeah, I would expect for them to get some. I want to say around Panama City area, I think I saw the predicted amount was around 2 to 3 inches, maybe something like that within the next few days. But that's still kind of preliminary, I think, right now.
All right. Any other questions today?
I'm sure I got one. Probably I ask some sort of similar question, seems like about every month, but if we have roughly 12 inches of rainfall and we got 2.8 feet of additional level in the aquifer. Is that ever, is there a correlation there that is pretty consistent, or is that, because I know the question's probably coming to you. Just curious, really. I mean, I know there's,
Typically, Madam Chair, may I? Okay. Typically, I don't see a lot of these that are, that high, but I think what it was is we had so much rainfall dumped in such a short amount of time from Tropical Storm Debbie, or excuse me, from Hurricane Debbie, that I think a lot of that, not only do we have it go into runoff, but we had a lot of that going into our aquifer from, the estivelling of the springs and things like that, and then sitting on some areas with not a lot of confinement, meaning that it's basically sand over the aquifer, so that goes right into it. So I think that's probably the reason why you're seeing 2.8 feet jumping up, is because we had such a lot of rain in such a short amount of time.
I guess the river being at a high level when it comes in probably had something to do with it.
Absolutely. I do want to point out too, let's go back a little bit. Yeah, as I pointed out, these were, and this is, I know this is flow, but flow is very correlated with stage. So we had White Springs, Ellaville, Branford, and Rock Bluff all high flows, meaning their stages were high as well. And if you think about the number of springs from White Springs on down, all those were backflowing, and all that stuff's going into our aquifer. So we've got a lot of recharge going on as well.
Thank you, Rob.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, Robbie, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Tom, have you got anything for us today? Okay. Any questions for Tom? All right. Let's go on into Mr. Tim.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. It seems weird to say that. So for Business and Community Services, I'm pleased to announce that we have a new member of our information technology team. So I'd like to start by having Tyler come forward and introduce you to our new employee.
New Madam Chair, board members, feels weird in the afternoon because I'm used to everything in the first
Yes,
thing in the
sir.
morning. We would like to introduce our new computer system support specialist, Mr. Morgan Ray. Just to give you some background information on Morgan. Morgan was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and raised in Fort White, Florida. Morgan attended PK Young Developmental Research School for high school and attended Santa Fe College in Gainesville, where he earned his AA degree in computer science. Before joining the district, Morgan worked as a network infrastructure technician for the United States Air Force from 2019 to 2023, and we appreciate your service. Thank you. Also, Morgan enjoys spending time with his family and friends, and he finds great joy in eating good food. I think we all do as well. Morgan's hobbies include watching and playing sports, primarily basketball, playing video games, and working with technology and software. Additionally, Morgan has a keen interest in learning about history, religion, and science. And also for the Gator fans, Morgan is a Gator fan as well.
Hot dog.
We're excited to have him on the team. And thank you for
Welcome.
allowing us the opportunity to hire him on.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well,
Morgan, you've got a good team to work with.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Everyone here has been great so far. Thank you.
Very good.
Always pleased to get a good hire. So at this time for Business Community Services, you'll find items number 10 through 20 on today's agenda. Items number 10 through 14, along with items number 16, item 19, and item number 20, you approved by way of consent agenda. So thank you. So today we'll have item number 9, a facilities update will be given by the Office of Administration Chief, Mr. Ben Glass. Item number 15 is an information item. Item number 17 will be presented by our regulatory chief from the Office of Water Use and Water Well, Mr. David King. And then we will wrap up with item number 18, which is a report from Leroy Marshall. So, Ben?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Just a quick update for you on our facilities. So I'll start with the lab building that we're renovating. So we have experienced some slowdowns with that on the finished work. That's not unusual with construction projects. We do have all the siding up. We've got the new roof on. Most of the exterior painting is done. The majority of the interior painting is done. So it is moving forward. They're installing shelving and cabinetry, that kind of thing now. So we've extended that contract out to October 1st. So hopefully at our October meeting, I'm not going to be telling you it was extended to November 1st, and we'll have a tour of that facility. That's what we're shooting for. As far as the main facility goes, a little different picture there. So we do have a better idea of our storm damage. It does look like, based on our insurance adjuster's assessment, that we will need a new roof on this building as well as our main facility. Insurance is going to cover that cost less the deductible, and we're exploring, gathering information on our options while that work is being performed. What's the best way to get that done, and what do we want to go back with? As far as the water intrusion issue that we have that assessed also. Insurance is going to cover that less the deductible, and there'll be some other work associated with that we want to accomplish while that work's being done. So more details to follow on that at the next meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Is it two different deductibles or the same one?
Two different. So each building has its own deductible for a named storm.
Okay.
5% of the valuation.
Which is a pretty big number.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it is. Yes, sir. It is. But so far, it doesn't appear that it will exceed what we have budgeted.
Have we made any arrangements to pass out umbrellas for the board?
Madam Chair, I have one in my office and one in my truck that anybody's welcome to. No, we did determine that we don't have active water intrusion going on, so the roof damage isn't such that the roof is unsound, just that it could become so.
I feel better.
How long is the process going to be to get bids in and start construction?
So that's part of what we're assessing right now. Because this is related to storm damage from a declared emergency, we are exempt from the competitive solicitation process. And we have been getting quotes from a contractor that was recommended by our insurance carrier.
Okay.
Quickly compared to the regular process. It will be quickly to get the damage addressed.
All righty. Any other questions? Ben? Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Looks like you got a big job ahead of you.
We're busy.
Is David here? We aren't going to let you go by without calling you up, David.
Chair, I'm David King, Office Chief for Water Use and Water Well Regulation. I'm here to present Agenda Item 17 with a recommendation to approve a second authorization for the permittee Blue Trident Brands to transport water from the Madison County Water Bottling Facility to the Gilchrist County Water Bottling Facility for a period not to exceed October 9th, 2024, without an additional authorization from the governing board. And this is the second authorization. This is what we brought to the board last month. And the water quality in the river they said is not quite right where they need it to be. They anticipated probably a week or two on this, but I think we would just recommend authorizing it for the next month and work with them through this month. As for the water withdrawals, they're well within their allocation still.
Okay. Is there any question?
Yeah, I think you just said it, but I just want to clarify. They're not doing any pumping out of the wells in Gilchrist now?
They said they did start pumping them, and they're checking the water quality, and it's not
They're
quite where they need
They're
it.
not actively bottling. In other words,
Right.
this isn't additional water. This is just replacing water that would have been being pumped from that permit.
Right. So essentially, the Gilchrist plant's not in operation, and they'll bring the water down from the Madison plant, and that water counts towards the Madison plant's allocation, which they're well under.
Make the motion.
Yeah, make a motion. Yeah.
Madam Chair, one question.
Okay.
My understanding on this emergency authorization, authorization, they can do this 3 times?
Not
What's the rule on that?
up to 90 days.
Up to 90 days?
So today would be day 35. 90 days would end on November 4th if they needed to go that long.
All right, so we have a motion. Was there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Just wanted to come up and give you guys a quick update on a couple of the issues we had before the board last meeting. We had a citizen come up, Mr. Minor, and discuss some flooding issues. District staff has gone out and looked at that situation. Within our jurisdiction, there's not much more we can do. But we are willing to assist Mr. Minor in any way we can with reaching out to the county and to other agencies that may be able to help him. But the district staff have done all they can for Mr. Minor. In a previous board meeting, the board approved an RFQ, a district environmental and engineering RFQ. All 47 contracts have been executed at this time, and actually we have executed a couple of TWAs to actually start doing some work on those. So I want to give you an update on that things are moving in that manner. The projects database, we came before you, I believe last month for an RFP that we went out for that. We've met with the consultant last week. It was a very informative first meeting. And if we're able to implement everything we discussed, is going to be awesome. And so I think everybody, at least that was in that meeting, is looking forward to moving forward with that project. The other couple of things that was on the consent agenda today, and I want to thank you for approving those, was the FEMA FY24 application. Heard from FEMA today. Everything is submitted, it's in and submitted. It's going up to HQ for approval. And once we get the approval from HQ, they're going to be coming down for signatures from the district. And that all has to be done by the end of the month. So we are looking forward to getting that so that we can do our FY24. For those who have any questions, FY24 is going to be doing the detailed studies of the cities in the Santa Fe. If you remember when we had when we took all of that to the flood risk review, that was one of the big issues, was doing a detailed study for the cities. That is being included in this FY24 effort. So the intention is to wrap all of that into one big study and get that out as soon as possible. The other thing that came before you this time was the FEMA RFQ. Again, staff came with the selection committee. They chose 1 PMC, which is our project management consultant, and 3 PPCs, which is our project production consultants. They are the same 4 consultants we had from the last RFQ. So if you were to ask the FEMA program staff, they're all happy with that selection, because the group that we have, we feel are doing an excellent job. Matter of fact, some of the consultants are here today. If you guys will just wave your hands. We're happy to have them approved and get them under contract so they can get going on the FY24 stuff. Any questions?
Okay, yes.
Leroy, how is the study, the FEMA study, going with the coastal flooding? Are they making any headway with that project?
Out here. Are we talking the groundwater part of
The groundwater and on all the surface water stuff that they were supposed to be working on?
They are. We are working out all the details of how that's going to work. We are trying to get the funding from DEP. We already have the FEMA funding. We're working on getting the funding from DEP. TWAs are worked out pretty much. Just got to get them signed, and we should be ready to go at that point.
There's a lot of people interested in that data.
I can believe so.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Any other questions for Leroy today? No?
One
Yep,
quick question. Leroy, has there been any inquiries from the local communities about the mapping
I'm Chair.
input?
I mean, most of the counties we haven't really heard from, other than we told them we were going back and we were going to, look at everything again. And we haven't really heard much from them. I think they're just kind of giving us time. We've kept saying, yeah, we have to put it off a little more and put it off a little more. This was the last portion of that we needed to do. We've made all the other corrections. The LiDAR stuff got corrected. The percolation rates everything else got corrected. This was the last portion. So as soon as we can get this signed and get this implemented, then we're ready to wrap this thing up.
Thank you for your effort.
Leroy, I know that some of the counties spoke about some piping that didn't show up on the maps, and it was creating what looked like maybe flooding. Was that all taken into consideration as well, not just the percolation maps?
Yes, ma'am. If you guys remember, we had the map, the interactive map that people can put their comments in. All of those comments, every one of those 1,500 or so comments that we had was addressed, and actually a response has been produced for every comment. So if it was in there, we looked at it and made the appropriate changes.
Perfect. Okay.
Wonderful. That is
That's good.
amazing.
Good work. That was a lot of hard
Our
work.
consultants, they're great.
Oh, dear. All right. Any other questions for Leroy? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mr. Wheeler, welcome to the board. My name is Caitlin Potter. I'm the Director of Outreach and Operations, and we have 8 items for your consideration today. Item number 21, 22, and 24 were for informational purposes. Items number 23, I will present. Item number 27 will be presented by Lorna Radcliffe. And items number 25, 26, and 28 were approved on consent, which we appreciate very much. To get us started, Troy Roberts, our communications manager, is going to provide an update on information and outreach during the storm event.
Afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'll be back before you again next month to talk about our communications plan for the upcoming year and some of the things that we'll be working on. But today I wanted to highlight some of our recent activity in the wake of Hurricane Debbie, and basically talk about the district's impact on our communities and how we spread information to the people who need it. So obviously part of our mission of the Communications and Outreach Office is to provide relevant information in a timely fashion to members of the public. Most of the time, this is on projects that we're doing, general information about what the district does. However, as we saw at the beginning of August, sometimes there are very important and impactful situations where we need to get additional information out and alert the public as best as we can. Hurricane Debbie began truly impacting our district on Sunday, August 4th. And as you know, over the next 24 hours, we saw a significant amount of rain. You saw in Robbie's presentation, some areas got more than 12 inches. I think I got 14 at my house. So very rainy conditions. But of course, when we start seeing that rain, we start getting questions. How quickly are the rivers going to rise? How does that impact me? Flash flooding, those sorts of things that people have questions about, they start looking for information. Thankfully, we have a wonderful staff. We have a tremendous website, and we have a great online presence that we can get that information out quickly, and also working with other agencies, whether it's emergency management, sheriff's offices, anybody that's dealing with similar situations, that we can kind of work with them and provide information to them and help them get information out, and they help us get information out as well. So what I thought I'd do today is highlight how we disseminated that information, the lead up to Debbie, and then obviously after Debbie, when we started seeing rivers rise, that's when the calls started coming in. So a couple of photos here. The one on the left is from Monday evening after Debbie kind of cleared out. I'm one of those people, you got to go see how everything looks. So I went to downtown Live Oak, walked around for a little bit, absolutely inundated. You feel for all the business owners that are down there, but, we saw this all over the district. Photo on the right was taken, I believe, by Caitlin. Take that one. Lorna or Caitlin took that photo and provided it with me. That's Swanee Springs the day after. So that was on Tuesday. There's not much of Swanee Springs left at this point in time, at least from what you can see because of how high the river is. But obviously, that became our impact after the rainfall. We started seeing the rivers rise. And again, we started getting a ton of questions. So we'll start off with the tried and true way of communicating. And I'm going to give Robbie McKinney a lot of the credit here. And unfortunately, he stepped out. But between he and I, we have figured out that we took about 300 phone calls from that Tuesday to Friday with people asking questions and looking for information so they can make informed decisions of how rainfall and rising rivers are going to impact their property. I think Robbie dealt with 2/3 of them, but I averaged my time, and it was 7 minutes per phone call. Initially, I was like, all right, I'm going to give them the information. Here's a website you can go to, and that's it. But when you have people looking for information and, they're desperately seeking something, it's kind of hard to get off the phone in 30 seconds or 60 seconds. So you spend a lot of time with them. But tried and true method is phone calls. We had a lot of those. Traditional media also played a pretty significant part. I know I did a bunch of interviews with WUFT, Lake City Reporter, TV20 out of Gainesville, even a couple with the Washington Post. They were very interested in what was going on in our district and how river levels were going to impact people. So obviously traditional media is another way that we can get that information out. And we're very thankful to our media partners that they sought us out rather than some other groups or agencies to give them that information. The two big ones, though, that I want to highlight were our website and our social media. So MySwaneeRiver.com has a lot of important information, of course. During a storm, people are looking for two things. They're looking for rainfall amounts and they're looking for flooding information. So we realized pretty quickly that's what they were going for. We put a big banner on the front page that basically said real-time river levels here. You couldn't miss it, and it directed you to our real-time river levels page. So that website is pulling information from NOAA and USGS, and it is actually updated, I believe, 7 days a week, twice a day. So even on the weekends, we have staff updating that information to make sure that it's current and people who are going to that page have the most up-to-date information that they can. So we have Google Analytics on our website, which basically tells us how many people are on there, where they're from, all that stuff. And on August 4th, Google Analytics let me know that we had an anomaly detected on our website. You kind of wonder why. And basically that was a spike in people visiting. We have typically on a given week between 2,000 and 3,000 visitors to our website. Each of those days we saw more than 9,000. So starting on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we had more than 9,000 on our website. So if we get 2,000 to 3,000 a week, we're looking at 27,000 for that 4-day period following the storm. And if you guess that most of those people were looking for flooding information, you'd be correct. The flooding information traffic on our website was up more than 700%. River levels and rainfall was up more than 330%. And that was everything we could do to direct people to those websites, because we told them, this is current, this is up to date, and this is information that basically shows, hey, if the river's cresting, when it's falling, if it continues to rise, that way they can look at the 4-day, 5-day, 10-day forecast and see if it's going to impact their property. Social media was also a huge boost. Compared to the week before Hurricane Debbie, our social media posts saw an increase of 1,400%. Along with an 1,100% increase in content interactions, means that people were actually clicking on the stuff that we're sharing and either going to a different link or getting a better look at the information that we were putting out there. 2 posts alone helped contribute to this. We had the one of Live Oak being flooded. We had the one of Swanee Springs. Both of those had more than 13,000 views. The rest of them had 5 to 10,000 apiece. Significant increase from what we typically see. And of course, we don't get credit for or when I say credit, we don't see the results of stuff we share from emergency management or NOAA or the National Hurricane Center, but obviously all of those did significant numbers as well. And of course, with district lands being closed, we were making sure that we were putting those updates out and have continued to update our district lands as we reopen them following the storm. The whole point of this is that storms impact people, and during these storm situations, people are looking for information. And what this shows is that they're coming to us for that. They believe that we provide the most accurate information out there, and we are there for them in their time of need. Also to stop disinformation of which we saw quite a bit of during this storm. But, these numbers show that people are coming to us. If they have questions, they're asking us those questions. And thankfully, again, we have the tools and we have the staff that are capable of doing that. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay. I just want to give you kudos for making that accessible on the website in such an easy manner. I referred, I don't know how many people that were questioning me about river levels. I said, it's real easy. Go to myswanneeriver.com and you'll find it. And everybody did. And they said it was a valuable piece of information. So,
Madam Chair.
good job.
Thankfully, we've got a wonderful IT staff that keeps our website running, and the Water Resources Division that makes sure that's updated. So when people do go there, they're not seeing information from a day or two ago. They're seeing accurate information that can help them make any decisions they need to make.
Yeah, and kudos to staff too for kind of taking the role of trying to debunk some of that false information that was going on out there. I don't know how the National Guard got the wrong information, started spreading 20 and 25 foot rise from current river levels. They had people scared to death. But that soon got.
That's good.
That was a bad day.
Thank you very much. Job well done for everybody.
Thanks, Troy.
All right, Madam Chair, the next item that I have for you is actually an update before we get to this board item. We have, as y'all have approved in the past, there's a list on your packet of the projects that you have approved for land acquisition due diligence. And we have 4 that are currently approved for due diligence, again, that are listed in your packet. We have reached a unique, what I call a unique scenario over the last several years where all of those projects have come to fruition about the same time, meaning that we have negotiated with those landowners on terms of the easement, and we are potentially ready to move forward to appraisals, which we would then negotiate price and bring to the board for final approval to purchase and to close. However, even based off of some conservative estimates, if we were to move forward with all 4 of those landowners, we would exceed our available land acquisition funding. And therefore, we will bring a list of those projects to the board in October, where we would request that y'all review and approve a ranking of those projects for us to fund internally and then go seek additional funding from the state or other resources if those projects remain viable. So I just wanted to make y'all aware of that update because, like I said, it's somewhat unique that they all came to bear at the same time. And we'll be asking you to rank them, which is slightly different than what you've done in the past relative to land acquisition projects. So you'll be receiving, we'll give you the summaries again on all those projects so that you have them available. And certainly I'm available for any questions, and our technical staff are as well to provide support. All right. If there's no questions on that, the item for your consideration is on OPS page 6, and this is the Crimson Swamp LLC egress easement request in Levy County. Back in June 2023, you, the board, authorized an access easement to Crimson Swamp over a portion of the district's Manatee South Track in Levy County. In exchange for that easement, the district had multiple terms that it was seeking to provide conservation in that area, and those terms are listed in the memorandum there, which were to vacate an existing easement located in an undesirable location on district property that was granted in 2019. It was to conserve a 28-acre cypress wetland and then encourage additional conservation in the area by offering a conservation easement to the district. Since the board has approved that easement in 2023, Crimson Swamp has submitted their 28-acre cypress wetland as part of a larger 504-acre conservation easement project with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's Florida Forever program. The program has been approved in its initial phases and is entering the appraisal phase. Staff support the property's participation in Florida Forever, including conservation of the cypress wetland through the state's program. Having the state hold the easement would alleviate the district's responsibility for monitoring the conservation easement and allow for much greater conservation acreage as part of that 500-acre parcel. So based off of the property's conservation with the Florida Forever program, the district requests to grant Crimson Swamp LLC the ingress-egress easement over the Manistee South Track based on their commitment to vacate the existing easement, which is that 2019 easement, and that if the cypress wetland is not conserved with the Florida Forever program, then Crimson Swamp would donate an easement over the 28-acre cypress wetland area to the district. Crimson Swamp, who's in the audience today, has been very proactive and diligent in providing all the necessary documentation, surveys, and other due diligence information associated with this agreement. This updated approval would allow the district to grant the ingress-egress easement, record a notice of termination on the existing easement, and sign a contract for the donation of the cypress wetland pending completion of the Florida Forever appraisal project. So you can see here, all right, Tyler. Okay. This green line is the existing easement that we are seeking to vacate, that was originally brought to y'all back in 2019, you approved, and then we brought it back in 2023 requesting to vacate it in favor of this yellow easement here. It serves these parcels down here. Landowner Crimson Swamp owns this property here, and the donation property would be all of this block? Forever? Yep, this block. And then if that project does not go through, they've committed to donating the portion of the cypress wetland listed there. So this is, this request that I'm making today is a clarification of the terms that you have previously made in 2023, and just in an effort to be transparent, because the project had been entered as part of Florida Forever, we wanted to bring it back to you for your approval.
Any questions on this item? Is there a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Very good. All right, and we'll have Lorna Radcliffe to close us out.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members. I'm going to be presenting item number 27. The district owns approximately 162,000 acres of floodplain for protection and the associated habitats. Within these lands is approximately 1,700 miles of roads. They're vital to public access as well as district management. On July 10th, the district released an invitation to bid requesting services for all hazard events, such as hurricanes, to make debris and tree removal from district properties so that they could be safe and accessible for use. There were 2 chapters of service for firms to bid on. Chapter 1 involved the district office and some of our featured recreation sites where precision work is needed, and the removal of the debris by hauling off to approved disposal sites. Chapter 2 is for district roads, and it involves cut and toss operations, removing debris from ditch edge to ditch edge, and removing hazard leaning trees from over roads, and removing hazard limbs from over roads. All the firms are listed in the tables below by chapter and by rates. The rates include a 3-person crew and chapter required equipment with a per hour rate. There was one non-responsive bid, and that was due to the fact the vendor they provided an incomplete application or packet. The agreements will be for 5 years with the option to have 3 one-year renewals, allowing us to lock the rates in. Work will be issued via task work assignments based on available budget. We will start with the lowest bidder by chapter, utilizing the number of crews that they have available before moving on to the next lowest bidder. Funding for these contracts is included in the fiscal year 24-25 tentative budget and is contingent upon the approval of the fiscal year 2025 final budget. The recommendation is to approve the list of responsive firms and authorize the executive director to enter into contract with each responsive firm.
Any discussion, questions? Mhm.
Could you elaborate a little bit on this wide range of hourly rate?
So some of it has to do with what equipment they're bringing, but also overhead cost of business. And I'm sorry, Madam Chair, was it?
Are all these contractors doing different projects,
I'm Chair.
or is it on the same?
It's the same type of work by chapter. So they're required to have, for chapter 2, for instance, they're required to have a mid-sized wheel loader with a grapple and 150 horsepower. They're required to have a mid-sized dozer with a rake and wide track and 100 horsepower. They're required to have a track loader or skid steer with a grapple that's at least 100 horsepower. They got to have tree cutting equipment such as chainsaws, necessary fuel, supplies, and a 3-person crew. And so there is a wide range as far as the price, but that's why we would start with the lowest and go.
Yeah, when you look at this, you think people aren't bidding on the same thing. I mean, 500% difference?
Could be one person's stuff's already paid for.
I wasn't sure if this was, estimated man hours or, how they were coming up with this figure. So we would work through these as needed.
Correct. So some of them are able to provide multiple crews. So we would start with the lowest bid and ask how many crews they have available for what we need. If we need 3 crews, they have 2. We'll get their 2 at the lowest and then move to the next lowest to get 1 more crew.
I'm sure Madam Chair, I'm sure the scale of the equipment probably has something to do with it. I mean, your minimum's 100 horsepower, this, that, and the other's kind of minimal. And they probably have some larger equipment that's obviously a lot more expensive. It is a wide range, but my question is, are these vendors people that we've used in the past, or is this a whole new list?
I'm sure. So 3 of the 5 in chapter 2 we have used before, and the prices compared to their regular contracts with us that we have currently are within. Some of their equipment rates are like $10 to $30 an hour difference. So there's not a major difference.
Well, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this contract is primarily for storm damage. It's emergency, act now,
It's a lot more
be here
extreme
in an hour kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get that too.
Is it reasonable to assume that if Skipper Terrain shows up on the job at $21.18 an hour, that they're going to get more done than the Sunshine Outdoor with the shows up on the job?
Madam Chair.
If they can have bigger equipment, I get it, but we should get more out of it if that's the case. How do you measure that?
if we get down to skipper terrain, it's a really bad event, so not that many crews.
The other thing that you're paying for here is, this is for storm cleanup. And so they have opportunities to go do storm cleanup anywhere in the area, and that's the rates that they're gonna charge. So they figure that that's what they're gonna charge the district to do the work. That's the deal. They make good money doing it.
But the other two,
The other two aren't in the storm cleanup business, most likely. That's just their normal hourly rates.
but it's all on the same.
It's the same
TWA.
equipment. It's the same equipment. It's the same people. It's just that they're figuring storm cleanup, so they put another $1,000 an hour there. What happened?
And generally, it's a lot of more adverse conditions that they're working under as well.
And we are verifying that they have the right equipment for the right job versus the right chapters, right? When they show up, they're not going to bring some little bitty Flintstone car, right?
Yes, sir.
So we evaluate the TWA and assign it to the right contractor
Yeah.
as needed. Thank you.
I'm
I can
sure
live with that.
at some point we are making sure that they're actually working and not out there having a picnic all day long for $410 an hour
Or for $1,200.
or $1,200 an hour.
You envision a hatchet and a Boy Scout knife.
Rubber boots. Any other questions? All right.
Chair, I make motion we approve recommendation from staff to approve the list.
Second.
We have motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes our item. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Brown.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I just wanted to give a brief verbal update. We are continuing to work with the Lower Santa Fe. Thank you to the board members that attended, and I know we've briefed the board members on the rulemaking for the Lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee Rivers. There was a public meeting and then a public comment period. Based on the storm and some stakeholder requests, the comment period was extended, and so we're continuing to engage with stakeholders, and the comment period has extended through this month. So if you are getting questions, certainly you can direct those back to the district. We can sit down with people to help them make comments that are meaningful. So
Okay,
that's all.
deal. All right. Any questions for Dr. Brown on that one? All righty. Thank you. He slipped out, didn't he?
Walked out, yep.
All right. You got, that's
Took
it.
off. I mean, it was fast too.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's see here.
Hey, look.
Would y'all like a break?
Snack time.
Oh, snack time. There you go.
Hugh, we're having a meeting here. Would you like to participate? I mean, hopefully we're not inconveniencing you too much.
Oh, shoot.
No, sir, I would let you. I did want to speak to Mr. Brandon before they left, and appreciate them being here today relative to that project. Well, good afternoon, board, and thank y'all for being here this afternoon. And it's 4:03. We have our first public hearing of our budget workshop at 5:05. So I thought what I would do is do a song and dance while I was up here and try to entertain for a
We
bit.
love
Let's
some
not-
entertainment.
let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Love
On
it.
second thought, I decided not to.
Tyler, you got music?
Do you have any jokes?
Do not have any jokes. I've never been one of those type of people that can pull a joke off the top of my head. But I will say, it's kind of ironic. It's kind of ironic when Robbie was showing the pictures of Debbie in downtown Live Oak. And I know you'll probably remember this, Mr. Sessions, but I remember in 2012 when Ann Shortell was a director here and Debbie came, well, it was just prior to her starting actually, but Debbie came through town, another Debbie came through town that
Debbie
day
won.
and dropped similar, a little less, but similar types of levels of rainfall, volumes of rainfall. but it was a different result. Now, Live Oak looked the same, other than the picture that I recall from that time frame was Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel was downtown at the intersection, knee deep in water, and on, live news.
I was looking for him, but I don't know.
Yeah,
He's a quitter.
he decided to visit somewhere else in the state that day, as I recall. But, it is interesting to see with that type of, but from a groundwater perspective, when you look at what happened during that event, that shows you, where we're at when we're coming out of a drought. In 2012, we were coming out of the tail end of a drought. That year, Beryl, which came through first, and then Debbie came through that year. And it pretty much broke the drought at that time with it. In fact, May of that year, the governing board here issued their first and only, to my knowledge, water shortage rule, phase 2 water shortage rule at that time. And it was rescinded about 3 weeks later because of the conditions that had changed. But this storm was a little bit different in the volume of rain and the amount of time that it stuck around. And we are still working with our counties, with the Corps of Engineers as well. We've got some counties that received Madison and Lafayette, and I'm sure Robbie could fill in other areas, but they received, since November of last year, they've received over a year's worth of rain plus. And our groundwater levels, I talked about this a little bit last month, but our groundwater levels were above the 90th percentile whenever that storm came through. And these internally drained systems, there's nowhere for the water to go. If the drain pipe's full and you pull the plug in the tub, it's not going to move much. And until our rivers are started receding, and they've done that, they've started dropping, and our groundwater levels are starting to drop some last night. I was in Lafayette County last night at a meeting, and they're pretty wet over there as well. But they do, particularly people that are not new to the area, they're familiar with these types of conditions and, what happens when we get that kind of rain. So we're still continuing to work with that. But, I have had several people tell me, thank you for the staff, the outreach effort that they have put forth during this emergency, and the information that they have offered going forward. And that's our job. We want to try to be able to help the public with that. A couple of other things that I've got on a sad note. 23 years ago tomorrow, 9/11. I don't know if all of you know where you were at. I can recall the moment that I heard.
Where it was.
I just would ask that you keep that in your thoughts and prayers going forward. A lot of things have changed, and we need to be reminded of that sometimes going forward. We do have our next public hearing on the 23rd of this month, which will be a Monday afternoon. We will have 3 workshop items planned for that afternoon starting at 3 o'clock. We won't have a governing board meeting per se, but we will have those workshop items. I think you'll see that they are, I hope you'll find them interesting. One of them is on the work that the district has been funding to the University of Florida, IFAS, on the snow thermal refuge work relative to MFLs. And then another one of the workshops will be dairy best management practices. Ray Hodge, who is with United Dairy Farmers, will be presenting that information on what the dairies are doing. Because over the next few months, we have gotten some funding from the Department of Environmental Protection that we'll be contracting out with some of our dairy farms in the area, and thought it would be good for the board to hear what the dairies are planning to do with that to protect our groundwater resources and surface water resources. And then also the Department of Environmental Protection will be presenting a workshop on the Basin Management Action Plans, which is the water quality plan to address nutrient loading and water quality concerns that we have for our resources with that. Also, relative to an item that was passed last month, And it's kind of a little bit, I was not biased whenever this item came through, tried not to be. But the Bell Ag program has sent their thank yous to the board for approving the long-term lease for the Bell Ag program to utilize 16 acres for a land lab there. They actually had just this week have asked to be able to go out there and do timber cruising, training for timber cruising for their forestry students out there. So I think that'll be a good compatible use of that property in that area there. And then, Charles, I think Robin was ordering some of the large umbrella hats.
Yeah.
So we can be prepared for that
Much more comfortable, yeah.
in the event that we need them.
A little nervous.
There you go. There you go. That's all I've got, Madam Chair, at this point.
Chair, let me comment to go on with what you had to say. City of Live Oak, as we all know, got hit pretty bad. With some local help, and with some help from DC too, we put a little pressure on the DEP to allow us to clean our 46 wells to help out in case something else happens, since we're still in hurricane season. So the minute we got the word, and I got the word from this man sitting right here, he helped a lot. And we didn't play. We cleaned them within a week. We got them all knocked down and cleaned out. But just so everybody knows, there's some wells as small as 4 inches. They're go-away holes. So let's just say that this is a well, and a styrofoam cup's floating around. Falls in the well. Well, that 10,000 gallons over the course of a few hours didn't go anywhere because it's plugged. So my goal is to get with DEP, and they won't allow me to dig new ones or make new ones without getting rid of old ones. So if I get rid of 3 4-inch wells, maybe I can get a 12-inch well, which I think would work better. And then we've come up with some engineering things to help us get past the burping syndrome that we all hear about in Live Oak, to actually let them breathe so that the water goes away quicker. So we have a lot of things in mind to do, but the help with getting the DEP to allow us to do that is probably going to help Live Oak in this hurricane season, especially because we won't be able to build any infrastructure, this time
quickly.
But that's what we're working on is infrastructure in the future that will actually pump off water from Live Oak when it starts. Not in just a hurricane, but if a big 4-inch rain happens, we can start getting rid of it. So that's the plans. So 46 wells, I'm sure that we could have done better if we'd have been able to have them cleaned prior to the storm.
How many of the wells were plugged? How many did you find that were
Well,
actually plugged?
None of them were completely plugged, but I mean, say my boot went down a 6-inch one, it's gonna plug it, because stuff's floating around, so you never know. Some took stuff slower than others. We did gallons per minute tests on them, and some were slower than others until we got the pressure on them and really pushed them down. And that was the issue. We're putting stuff in the aquifer. Well, it was going to the aquifer anyway. So let us at least take care of the wells that help the downtown, help the city. And we're working with DOT too, because the DOT during this event has found out that their plumbing's not like they think it is. And so they're working on some things now because US 9129 was a big issue.
Mhm.
So we've got them involved also.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
can I ask Larry a question? I heard a retention pond at Savannah subdivision out there, it developed a sinkhole. You got any information on that?
News to me.
They had a big retention for the neighborhood. It was full. It was out to the road, and then like almost overnight, it was gone.
Well, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but
No, it's not a bad thing. I just
especially if it's in a retention pond. But
I'm wondering if they plan on fixing it or
no, I
letting that be.
if it's filled up, I mean, if it went down like that quick and it's still in the retention pond,
I wouldn't touch it. I mean, you know, it's a new place for stuff to go. As bad as we were, we need places for water to go.
Yeah, I mean, it was up to property owners' driveways. I mean, and it's a huge retention pond. It's not a small one. It's that cul-de-sac in the back where it all feeds to. And they said, like, the next day, it was like, oh, gone.
Well, and it could be one of those burping syndrome situations like happened downtown too. Once things started to happen, like on 129, once it started to go, it went in a hurry, and that was the most flooded part of town. It didn't take long, but the issue is we're trying to work on things that improve things in the future, but there's a lot of ifs out there. I mean, a lot of things that maybe aren't really true that people say. But if it's a sinkhole within a retention pond, it doesn't look like it's going to do anything. I wouldn't mess with it at this point, especially.
Well, I think they were pretty tickled when they saw that water go away.
I'm sure they were. There's a lot of people tickled when they saw water go away. I can tell you, I was getting about 100 phone calls a day. I couldn't keep up with them all.
Madam Chair, I mean, that's part of the challenge that we have, Mr. Charles. I know all of you are familiar with the geology in our area. Amy waxed eloquent on this, but with the geology that we have in our area, siting the stormwater ponds are a challenge because of the geology underneath. It gives way, that can give way over time. I mean, when you think about how a sinkhole actually formed and the dissolution of the lime rock, due to acidic rainfall coming in and over time dissolving it, it's challenging to site structures.
It perked really good.
Yeah, well, that's a part of the problem. There wasn't any percolation. It just disappeared with it. And of course, then you know, that raises water quality concerns as well.
But it changed from the last storm. The sinkhole that they were worried about by the courthouse in Live Oak, where the new green space is there, where there's no more businesses, they pumped and pumped and pumped concrete into that cavern, which that may have been in prior storms a way for water to go away. But since it's all concrete down there now, that may have affected some of the flooding downtown because that cavern was no longer there for water to go into. So there's a lot more concrete underneath the city of Live Oak versus last Debbie. There's a lot of challenges still.
Can I ask one other thing? Troy, you gave some pretty interesting statistics about how the website traffic got up, just for information. Can you verify whether Larry went there 3,000 times during the event?
I didn't have time
what was going on.
Change clothes, but
that's not very, that's kind of skewing the statistics a little bit.
I mean, you said you were working with Google.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We
Can
should be able to
we
get that
verify or not?
Trust me, I was not at my computer. I was out in my truck.
Yeah, but your telephone works too. It's probably right
I
there on
was
the
not
website.
going to the
You know,
website.
probably
Trust
jacking
me,
up
Troy,
by
I'm probably one of the few that didn't go to the website.
Troy's going, oh my God, 10,000 people went here and 3 of them was Larry. Okay, unique visitor.
Unique.
Well, we know Larry's unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I promise you, I didn't go once. I was just busy.
I can't say that. I went there numerous times. We were trying to answer questions that we were getting. That's all I've got, Madam Chair, with it.
All right. Any other questions for you today? All right. Well, it is not time for our time certain public hearing. So let's go ahead and is there a motion to adjourn our regular board meeting?
I make that motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. All right. So be back here before 5:05.